I thought I'd have life all figured out by now. But the truth is, I'm just starting to learn how to build a life that feels like my own. Growing up, we were told that success has a timeline, that by 30, you should be married, thriving in your career, building your dream home, planning for retirement. But no one really prepares you for what happens when you hit those milestones and you still feel unfulfilled, or what happens when you don't hit them at all. And suddenly you feel like you're behind on a life that you never had full autonomy over to begin with. You couldn't have told me back then that 40 plus would, in fact, not be over the hill, that I'd still be learning, I'd still be growing, and I'd still be healing, that I'd be trying again for the second, third, maybe even fourth time, that I'd be a beginner again in my 40s. And that's not because I failed, but because I just couldn't fake it anymore. This video is for any woman who's ever felt like their life is behind, for the ones who have checked the boxes and still feel empty inside, for the ones who feel like they're stuck in a cycle of starting over and over again and wondering if it is too late for you to blossom into your greatest becoming. I'm here to tell you it is not too late. You are not too far gone, and you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience, from wisdom, from leverage, and most importantly, from soul. And so in this video, I'm sharing why I made the decision to start over again at 40 plus, and what that actually looks and feels like behind the scenes. I'll walk you through the turning point that led me to here, what I had to leave behind, and what I'm choosing instead. Because the next chapter of my life isn't about fixing myself. It's not about even fixing my life. It's about honoring who I am. I have to take a pause for that. It's about honoring who I am as well as who I am becoming, all while building a brand new empire that is rooted in joy, rooted in softness, rooted in alignment, and rooted in truth. And for you, that empire may not look like a new business. It may look like a new belief system or a more spacious lifestyle, deeper self trust, or just simply waking up and feeling free in your own life again. This is where we explore it, embody it, and give ourselves permission to build our life and our empire our way. So, welcome to Life 2.0, which, by the way, life is the meaning of my name, Aisha. So, shout out to moms for such an amazing name and all the amazing artists who have written about it over the years. But in this video, we're not just talking about rebranding. I know so many people on the internet streets are talking about rebranding your life. I think even more deeply than rebranding, it's important for us to reclaim our identity. So pull your chair up, get comfortable, grab a glass of your favorite drink. Today, I've got my handy dandy water jug. Let's get comfortable and let's talk about it. Mm. So I spent years doing what I thought was the right thing. Now, let me disclaimer here. because I have never been a traditionalist or someone who has followed the rules and been boxed in by society's expectations. That's really never been me. At 16 years old, I had my first child. At 17, 18, I dropped out of college while I was on a full scholarship. By 19, I had my second, 19 or 20, I had my second child. And I believe at that point, my family and friends thought I was throwing my life away. In fact, if I were to be honest, maybe a part of me also believed that I was just throwing my life away. I was out of control. But even in that, I've always had this inner knowing that I was called to be and do so much more. And I knew that my story wouldn't unfold like everybody else's because I was not meant to live like everyone else. But still, I tried to prove myself. I was the responsible one, the resilient one, the strong one. And I put so much pressure on myself to make it work, whatever it was, because I felt like I had something to prove. And in my early 20s, while most of my peers were following the script, following the path, graduating from college, landing their first real job, getting engaged, planning weddings and buying homes, perhaps. I don't know. I was raising two children and just trying to survive, just trying to stay afloat. I didn't have the luxury of figuring it out slowly because I had mouths to feed, I had bills to pay, and life was real, right? Then at 25, I had my third child. And something shifted for me because I knew that my life had gone so far off the course of what I had dreamed for myself. And while I absolutely love my children with every part of me, I just couldn't shake the feeling that I had started to disappear inside of this story, this I don't even know what to call it. I was attracting so much chaos and confusion in my life. And I'm going to share more of that on this channel, what it looks like when we're not living in alignment, when we're not checking in with ourselves, when we're not creating from our seat of power. In my 20s, I was not doing any of that. I was not doing any of that. I was constantly pouring from an empty cup, trying to create stability without any foundation to stand on. So, how many of you can relate to trying to build something from nothing? Trying to give your best when you barely even feel like yourself, you can barely even recognize yourself. Trying to show up with all of this strength when at a soul level you are so exhausted. Smiling on the outside, dressing up your pain, while silently you're asking yourself, is this all there is? That was me. I was doing all the things, trying to make sure that my kids had a better life than I did, carrying the weight that I had created. But deep down, I knew this could not be it. There had to be another way for me to exist. There had to be more to my story, right? And more expansive, beautiful things for me to experience and to create. So for a number of years, being stuck somewhere between survival and self-sacrifice, I just stopped dreaming about all of the possibilities. And then when I was about 29, again, going to hit 30, it occurred to me that if I didn't change something, nothing was going to change. And then out of nowhere, I just started to believe in the vision that I had for my future. I had always known and believed and trusted that I was meant to be a change maker. Like I never doubted that. I was always a creative. I was a writer, a poet. I dabbled in modeling and event production. And I started to remember that I wasn't born to just work and pay bills, right? And then by default, what I did was I started measuring up my life to what society tells us that by 30, we should have, figured it all out. By 30, we should have the career, we should be married, we should have the savings, the 5-year plan, we should have stability, direction, this perfectly curated little life. But me, I had 3 kids, no degree, no real career path, just a stable job and a few $1,000s in savings. And I thought, this may be the time for me to take a huge bet on myself, because if I wanted the dream job, then I needed to create that dream job. And if I wanted the financial and time freedom, which I had none of at that point, then I needed to be my own boss. So, with everything that I had learned up to that point back in 2009, everything that I had earned, my entire $17,000 life savings, which, by the way, was supposed to be for my first home. I was saving up this money to be able to get a mortgage. But instead, what I did was I took that money. I can only laugh now because I was so crazy. But I took that money and I started my first business called On Road Productions. And keep in mind, I had no real business experience. I had no roadmap, no 5-year plan, not even a 3-year plan, no mentors, because this was pre Instagram coaching and pre YouTube strategies. All I had was faith. I had a fire burning within me, and I had a belief that I would figure it out along the way. And that inspired me to take the leap. Now, that first business, I guess you guys can guess, the first business didn't become the dream that I envisioned. Now, I did successfully complete my first major solo project. And then I also was hired during that time for some smaller projects. But a little over a year later, my back was against the wall. I was in debt. And quite frankly, I was just in over my head. But here's the thing, that experience gave me something so much more valuable than a paycheck. Starting that business, having the vanity success of producing and publishing a calendar, collaborating with local and international talent, and finishing something that I had started gave me this boost of confidence to believe in myself again. It gave me proof that I could build something from nothing. And quite honestly, if I didn't take that leap, I don't know if I would be sitting here today. So that was in 2009. In 2011, I pivoted because what I saw was this big gap. There were so many brilliant women that I was meeting who had vision, they had talent, they had businesses, but they didn't have access to the tools or the resources or even the support to really build successful brands. And from that, I birthed Viva La Bella, because I knew that if we could access information and know-how, and if we had access to funding and systems, that anything would be possible, not just for financial success, but also for legacy, for ownership, for sovereignty. And we did gain some momentum, and I was deeply inspired by this vision that I was holding. But behind the scenes, I was going through my own personal metamorphosis. In retrospect, looking back, this is the season that first cracked me open, that sent me down a very, very deep rabbit hole of self inquiry, of healing, of unlearning, of relearning, and just of spiritual awakening. And when I re-emerged from that experience, the world was changing and I was changing too. And so, again, looking back, I thought it was my mission to save the world, to hold space for everyone, to fix the broken systems, to empower every woman I could reach. That was my vision. But I hadn't even saved myself. I had not built a life that could actually hold and sustain me. And that truth was humbling and it was frightening. So there I was, desperate to align my life with what I thought success looked like. So I did the only thing that I knew how to do. I kept it moving. I kept it moving. I kept building. I kept reinventing. And along the way, I taught myself everything I could about entrepreneurship, how to market, how to sell, how to lead, how to build from scratch, how to design. I know if I have some side hustlers and some solopreneurs, even entrepreneurs here watching this video right now, you all know dang well how we have to do it all. We wear all of the hats. And most of the times when we're building our empires from scarcity and lack, which is what it is, you'll see us running around trying to do everything and be everything. And that was me for a very long time. I tried business after business and I wouldn't let myself land on just one thing. Part of that was because I've always been a multi-passionate person, but mostly that was because I was chasing success. You know, we see the overnight successes on the internet, but we don't understand the time and the energy and the systems that support that success. So I was chasing success. I was searching for that one thing that would finally hit. I did it all. A lot of it was driven by my passion, but I did it all because I was looking for that thing that would validate this long, sometimes painful journey that I had been on for such a long time. And in my mind, I'm just thinking there's going to be that thing that is going to say, yes, Aisha, this is it. I was already certified as a holistic health coach, certified as a Reiki practitioner. I taught myself how to prepare plant-based meals, became a plant-based chef, taught myself photography, was a photographer. And while I loved every single thing that I did, here's the thing that I realized. I was not leading from my divine authority. So here we are now, fast forward 2016. And I mean, I didn't intend to like do the whole take you all the way back, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess it's necessary because it gives you guys context to why I am starting over again at almost 50. Having that perspective hopefully helps you to understand that you can make mistakes, you can start late, you can pivot more than once, and you can still win, you can still rise, you can be brilliant, broken, blessed, and becoming all at the same time. Okay? You don't lose your value just because your path looks different or because you take longer than others to recognize your value. And you're never too far off to return to your truth or to reclaim your identity. And so I had to go through all of this. And then in 2016, after giving birth for the fourth and final time, I found myself back at a crossroads. There was a fear creeping in again of what do I do next? I still hadn't really accomplished the goals that I would have or that I thought I would have checked off by that point in my life. And here I was with another human being that I was responsible for. I remember living between depression and the weight of what was next. It was really heavy. And with a newborn, my previous business, which was being a plant-based chef, just wasn't going to work. Fortunately for me, some of the years that I'd spent teaching myself marketing and teaching myself design and brand strategy and all of these things started to pay off as opportunities became available for me to freelance as a consultant. And so that happened very naturally. And I was good at what I was doing and it paid me well and it made sense. It just made sense. And so by 2020, Now, in my 40s, I launched what I thought was going to be my final chapter, a clean, structured business solutions company that I was very, very proud of. B2B, high ticket, scalable, strategic. It gave me the time freedom to be present with my family and the financial freedom to comfortably sustain our lifestyle. I was stable. The company was respectable. It was profitable. But behind the scenes, something was missing. What I had built was something that looked good, made logical sense, but wasn't rooted in my authenticity. It was shaped by what I thought I should be doing at this stage in life and not by what I was truly called to create. And that's when I realized I had done all of this growing, all of this effort, all of this building, but I never stopped long enough to create a sustainable model from my own joy, from my energy, from my peace, for my wholeness. All of this, I was still operating from survival, from grit, from figure it out and keep going, from the part of me that believed I still had something to prove. Even after I'd overcome so many things in my life, I mean, oh my gosh, so many things, I was still chasing certainty, still outsourcing my sense of safety to income, to structure, and to external validation. And that's when I knew, as much as I was trying to, I could not ignore what I was feeling. I could not just continue to go along to get along. I couldn't force what just didn't feel right in my soul. And so I knew that something, again, something had to change. But you guys, can you imagine how utterly terrifying that realization was? How frightening that was to look at something that in many ways was working and yet still admit that this just wasn't it. To make a decision that would yet again impact my entire family, all because something inside of me refused to settle. Can you guys imagine that feeling? Because deep down, I just knew that if I had kept on building on top of a foundation that wasn't aligned with my truth, it would eventually collapse. And so, needless to say, this season cracked me open yet again. And I was forced to sit with myself without the distractions, without the busy work, without the constant output, and really see what I had been avoiding, the pressure that I had been normalizing, the pace that I was trying to keep up with, the parts of myself that I had buried beneath the busy. It was very uncomfortable, very painful, because when you've spent years wearing strength like an armor, softening yourself feels like utter surrender. And in my instance, I also didn't even really know how to. But in the becoming, in that stillness, I started hearing my own voice again. And not the voice that was shaped by hustle or by fear, but the voice rooted in my divine wisdom. The one that said to me, Aisha, you do not need to fix yourself. You need to feel safe being yourself. And that's when things really started shaking up for me. And I could see how I neglected so many parts of myself in the name of success and survival. And who would put those two words together in the same sentence? Who would put together success and survival? But how many of us are doing just that? How many of us are wearing success like an armor in exchange for our life force? How many of us are still living in survival mode, but dressing it up in titles and labels and in overcompensation as we chase the dream, as we build the brand, as we follow the blueprint? And deep down, we're exhausted as hell. We're unfulfilled. And success becomes this like glass slipper that even when it blisters our feet, even when it pinches our heels and cuts us and all of that stuff, we still convince ourselves that, hey, this is just a part of the good life. We tell ourselves beauty is pain, rest is earned, joy is a luxury. And we start confusing our identity with our image, wearing the mask, saying all the right things, playing the role, all while carrying shame for not feeling as fulfilled as we think we should. I think that's what really shook me the most. I was still rooted in a broken sense of self-worth. And I just couldn't keep doing that. No, no, no. And you too may be feeling like you're constantly achieving, but never fully arriving. Or maybe you're tired of pretending that it's all working out wonderfully, when inside you're quietly unraveling. Maybe you're carrying shame for not being further ahead, guilt for wanting more. When, people tell you, well, you should be so grateful for what you have, because, oh my gosh, or the pressure to hold it all together when all you really want to do is exhale, breathe. I see you because I've lived that. And I want you to know that this is not the end of the road for you. This is your initiation. And you don't need to start over, quite frankly. You don't need to start over. You just need to give yourself permission to come home to yourself. And that is exactly what life 2.0 is all about. It's not about fixing anything. It's not about forcing anything. It's about freeing yourself, freeing myself to become. And no matter where you are on your journey, you can activate your life 2.0. This is the season in your life when you're ready to live in your full self-awareness. This is the season where you're ready to fully accept yourself and live from your full sovereignty. And the first step in becoming is not adding on, not piling on more to what's already there. The first step is releasing. Say it with me. Releasing. Getting clear on what has served the existing or a past version of you, but what no longer fits who you're becoming. Because we do not evolve by stacking strategies on top of broken patterns. That's what you call band-aiding. And that is really how most of us survive. That's how we get through this life, band-aiding. But if we want to evolve, we have to create the space for truth, for your identity, and for your integration. And that means letting go of what was never meant to go into the next chapter with you. Not the guilt, not the proving, not the grind, not the pressure. Those outdated versions of you who learned to perform for success so that you could be safe or accepted or whatever, that part of you is not meant for your next chapter. And I know if you've made it this far in the video, it's because you see yourself in these patterns and you've mastered the art of showing up, of being the strong one, of doing what's expected. You've pushed through the burnout, or you're probably pushing through some burnout right now. You've carried the weight. You wear the smile like everything is okay, knowing that inside you're crumbling. And maybe, just maybe, you have started to realize that success is not sustainable when it costs you you. So this is your season to stop performing, to stop shrinking, to stop building from fear, approval, and survival, and to start embodying your truth, your softness, your standards, your full self. The season is about releasing with reverence because every single version of you served you. But now it's time for new agreements because we no longer have to hustle our way into alignment. We no longer have to prove our worth to anybody. We no longer have to build our dreams on top of burnout. We get to honor our energy. We get to lead from wholeness. We get to build from overflow. So as for me, I'm leaving behind hustle culture. I'm leaving behind doing things just because they worked for somebody else. And I'm leaving behind the urgency that told me I had to make it happen now or my time would run out. I'd be left behind. I'm done grinding my way into success. I'm done shrinking to make others comfortable. I'm done proving my worth because I'm not building a brand here. I am building a life. I'm building an empire. And I don't have to do that from the masculine molds of hustle, hardness, self-sacrifice. I get to create from softness, from my divine feminine, from strategy, but also from soul. So just to recap here, this video is for anyone who has been dreading the idea of starting over at any age, 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus. It's for the woman who's been carrying dreams in the back of her mind for years, but hasn't felt safe enough to bring them into existence. This video is for the ones who keep asking, is it too late for me? Or do I have what it takes to bring my dreams into manifestation, to make my dreams a reality? And I want to tell you, you do. Starting over is not a setback. It's an invitation to build again, but to build differently. This time, implementing your truth, your wisdom, your intention, most importantly, placing you at the center of your empire. Because yes, your universe should revolve around you. And just to say, like my daughter says, and just to say, building a brand new empire does not have to mean launching a business. Sometimes it can simply mean coming home to yourself. It may mean rewriting your relationship with yourself, rewriting your relationship with money. It may mean creating space for more joy or more rest in your everyday. It may look like healing your nervous system, establishing new boundaries. It could mean opening up yourself to love and be loved. It may be redefining motherhood, reclaiming your voice in your partnership, or it could be just deciding that peace will be your new standard. Whatever it is for you, building a brand new empire is about energy. And for me, it's a shift in energy from survival to sovereignty. And I'm now choosing to build a life, an empire with every piece of it aligned to who I truly am. And a huge part of that is honoring who I have been, as well as honoring who I am becoming, creating new energetic flow, loving the purpose in every wound, every detour, every delay, recognizing that even the hard parts were part of the holy plan. Because I'm not disowning any version of me. I'm integrating her. I'm letting her wisdom move through how I choose to move forward. And from that place of integration, I'm choosing softness over striving, flow over force, most importantly, embodiment over perception or image. Because I've lived the version of success that demands me to abandon myself. And now I'm choosing the version that honors my truth, that honors my timing, my essence, my cycles, my genius. And this isn't about playing small either. Indeed, this is actually about living in my sacred abundance, moving with intention, being deeply rooted so that I can build a foundation where as I rise, I'm not falling apart. And none of this requires fixing me, and none of this requires fixing you. It means changing how you see yourself, because you cannot evolve into your next level while clinging onto an outdated identity. I want you to ask yourself, pause for a quick moment and just ask yourself, who have I been trying to be in order to feel safe? And who am I now being called to become in order to feel free? For so many years, I tried to get it right by adopting the roles: the entrepreneur, the coach, the chef, the strategist, the creative, the business owner. Every time I stepped into one of those roles without doing the internal work to support it, I found myself burning out or starting over, feeling like something was still missing. And what I didn't realize back then was that I didn't just need a business model. Really, what I first should have had was an internal model, a framework to help me embody the version of myself who could hold the life that I was building, a way of operating that began with energy, aligned with identity, and moved through systems that prevented all of the overwhelm and stress. This is what has been one of the biggest catalysts for the transformation in how I serve my clients now. Because yes, we build businesses, but we first have to build ourselves. And so I am so super excited to be developing two powerful frameworks that I cannot wait to share with you guys. One of them I'm calling the Empire Operating System. Listen, if there was one thing I could impress on my 20 or 30-year-old self, it would be to get clear on who you are and who you desire to become, then build everything from that place, not from fear, not from rushing, not from proving or from other people's paths and how society says it should be done, but from the clarity of your own rhythm, of your own design, of your own genius. Because when you know who you are and who you're here to become, you're not chasing anything, right? You're all about embodying. And that's really the essence of the Empire Operating System. It's a framework that helps you live, lead, and build from your identity, not just your ideas. It's the inner infrastructure that supports everything else. And that's what I never That's what I never had. From the beginning, I was bootstrapping, figuring things out as I went along, wearing all these hats, pouring from an empty cup, building from urgency instead of alignment. And while I'm proud of everything I survived and everything I created, I now understand that sustainability requires structure and that true expansion only happens when your identity and your energy are in sync with your vision. That's why I'm building differently now. That's why I am creating the Empire Operating System, not just for me, but for every woman who's ever been told that she has to choose between her soul and her success. Because here's the truth. We don't need more motivational speeches. We don't need more hype, more hustle, or even more inspiration. I mean, we have more than enough of that. What we really need is more integration. We need tools that help us embody what we're learning. We need systems that help us practice who we're becoming. Daily rhythms that bring our intentions into alignment with our identity. Because you don't just wake up evolved. You don't just wake up a new you. You design that. You practice it. You become it. One decision, one ritual, one aligned action at a time. And so I want to ask you, what are you currently practicing, even unconsciously, that's keeping you tied to an old version of yourself? What habits, patterns, beliefs are still shaping your day to day, even though they no longer align with who you're becoming? Where in your life are you craving structure as a container for the next version of you? We're all living by some kind of operating system. The question is, did you choose it or did it choose you? That is the power of intention. That is the power of integration. And that is what changes everything. And so I am so very, 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 very excited to be building my brand new empire my way, alongside you guys, of course. This time I'm creating from my seat of power and my inner peace. And I'm putting myself out there to be seen in my truth, not just for what I have built in the past, but for who I am becoming. Because I'm not hiding behind the brand. I'm not waiting until everything is perfect. I am showing up right now in real time as I evolve, as I expand, and as I embody this next chapter. Because I know that there is someone out there who needs to witness the becoming. If you're in a season of redefining, reclaiming, or rebuilding, you're not alone. You're not behind, and you're exactly where you need to be. So click the subscribe button below because we're just getting started. And be sure to check out my last video. The link should be up here somewhere. And if you're ready to go deeper, I'd love to have you inside of our 21 Days of Joy community, where we dedicate space to your well-being, to your joy, and to your alignment. Stay tuned for more about the Empire Operating System, this soul-rooted framework that I'm creating, and I'm so excited about it. And yeah, I know that was a lot. Like, I'm really, really thirsty right now. That was a lot. So if you're still here with me, let me know in the comments what parts of this video resonated the most, what parts landed for you. Tell me what you're leaving behind in this season, in this chapter, or simply say, I'm becoming, in the comments. Thank you so much for being here with me. This feels so great. It feels so amazing. And I am looking forward to seeing you in the next video, beautiful soul. Peace and blessings.